only, or Clinton is the only Iowa school that they're actually on tour with. They just came from North Dakota. So they're zigzagging across the country, and I found out last night they're heading to the Pacific Northwest after us. So they are traveling the country, but very excited. The workshop starts at 4 o'clock today. If students are interested in grades 4 through 12, you can still register. We've put out a lot of information on that, so we can still take those last minute reservations, but it is going to start at 4 o'clock this afternoon and go till 9 tonight, and then the workshop goes 8 to 5:30 tomorrow. Dress rehearsal Saturday afternoon, and then we will have a public performance Saturday night, 6 to 8. The first act will be the Young Americans, so you're going to kind of see an off-Broadway quality performance from them. And then the second half is our kids and what they learned in the workshop, putting on a 1-hour show with the Young Americans kind of as their backups. So it's going to be a fantastic opportunity. If you enjoy the performing arts, I would encourage you to come to Clinton High School, your gym, 6 o'clock on Saturday, and enjoy the entertainment.
What will be the admission for that, Gary? Do you know?
Adults are 12 and students are 10.
All right, very good. Does that money go to the Young Americans then?
No, that money actually will stay with the school district, and we'll divvy it up. Part of their outreach tour is to support the fine arts. So all the ticket prices, all that money that's raised actually stays with our school. So that's their gift to us.
That is outstanding. Any idea how the participation has been from the local students?
Right now we're between 95 and 100 students.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, so I'm hopeful. Let's hit 100 at least. And like I said, we'll take, people can register up to 4 o'clock today, and then it gets started.
What a great opportunity, and again, to have them make the only stop in Iowa will be here in Clinton. Yeah. That's great.
I make the equivalent. This would be like for football, bringing in Alabama. For basketball, you're bringing in Duke. That's what they mean to the performing arts. They are, for the collegiate level, considered one of the elite ones in the country.
Well, those are great analogies. So coming up, Kirk Farron's going to be in town.
Yes. Part of the Duke Slater statue committee, and one of our things is we have been able to raise enough money to get the statue, which is in production right now, and we plan to get that installed in August. And then we plan to have a ceremony, probably that first football game, which I think is the first Friday in September in week 2. But the committee has always said we would love to get a scholarship going in Duke's name as well, and that's where this comes in. We've asked Kirk Ferentz to come in on May 9th for a luncheon. Right now, tentatively 11:30 to 1:30. It'll be at Clinton High School. We are going to do it in the small gym, much like the Hall of Honor. And we've done that sometimes with the Athletic Hall of Fame when you need the space. And then Kirk's going to be there and give some comments, and then we're hopeful Gary Dolphin will be there as well. And then it is a fundraiser for this scholarship, so there'll be an ask of some kind at the end. One of the things we currently have going, which will be promoted at this event, is we have bricks that if you actually go to the site right now and look, you can buy a brick and have your name put on that and there's 3 different sizes, so that'll be one of the pushes is to buy a brick and have your family's name put on that or whatever. And we're hopeful we might even get some bigger donations than that, given the idea that if you follow the story of Duke Slater, how many barriers he broke, not just as a football player, but as an African American. He's in our Athletic Hall of Fame, but he's also in that Hall of Honor because of what he did in judicial service. Mm-hmm. He was the first black judge in Cook County and all these different things. So, he really broke barriers at a time where for people of his race, it was very difficult to do. Just an outstanding role model for our current students. And maybe to get a scholarship going in his name would be just a great feather for Clinton High School.
Oh, I tell you what, that would be an amazing looking statue right there at that corner as you head toward a football game.
Yeah, it's life size. And there is going to be a pedestal that's the next thing. So it's going to sit up a little bit. So you're going to look up at a life size Duke Slater, and it'll be tilted in a way that our students at that north parking lot will be walking by it every day, and it'll also be able to look at the football field.
That'll be great. Again, Duke Slater, that'll be just outstanding.
We'll have a little more information when it gets closer to May 9th, and we're going to get some things out, but we obviously we are hopeful for a great crowd for that luncheon to listen to Kirk.
Okay, I plan on being there. So coming up now, some things maybe might not be as much fun to talk about, the legislative issues.
Yeah, and it has been a challenging session in terms of getting bills passed. And it all really kind of started with that AAA bill, which is still hanging there and has really taken the oxygen out of this entire session. This week, the Senate took the House bill. We had the funnel last week, the second funnel, which basically narrows the scope now. So a lot of bills were killed that weren't acted on by both. They had to have both the House and Senate action on it. And if they didn't meet that requirement, they're dead. Although you're always told there's a way they can resurrect them. But this week, the Senate amended the House bill. There's some good things with the House bill. There's some good things with the Senate bill. We're going to encourage that they compromise on those good points. I'll be honest, I think the House bill has better timelines. They separate out the teacher pay, which I believe is sort of an incentive to get the AEA bill through. Like, hey, if you want teacher pay, and to me, these are two separate areas. So I would like to see those still separated. Let's talk about an AEA bill. Let's slow the timelines and actually do a study. I do think that just given the public, I'll call it outcry across the state in terms of basically trying to dismantle the AEA is not good in three areas. Equity, where you live, should not matter in terms of quality of services, particularly in special education. Local control, which is a big issue with the House bill. Basically, they want to center the power with the Department of Education instead of we have 9 local AEA boards that make those decisions right now. And I still struggle that, legislators will say we believe in local control, but now we pass bills that take local control away. So, I mean, to me, you should be have your actions meet your words, and to do that. And the other thing is efficiency, economy of scale for the AEAs. Even Clinton, given that we're one of the bigger districts in the state, we have a lot of 0.1 and 0.2 services, very specialized, deaf and hard of hearing, vision. There's a lot of these areas. We don't need a full-time person to provide services. And if we're put into a situation where the AEA doesn't have that capacity, we're going to really struggle. And I can't imagine being in a small rural district trying to find these services. So to me, that efficiency of scale is really important, which ties into equity, that, hey, it doesn't matter what corner or what cornfield you live in Iowa, if your child needs high-quality special ed services, they should be available.
Again, visiting with Gary DeLacy. Of course, you can't spend your time in Des Moines. You're here in Clinton as well. How do you keep abreast on what's going on daily?
Well, we have lobbyists. The Clinton Schools is part of the Rural School Advocates of Iowa, so Margaret Buckton is one of the most respected educational lobbyists. When things go, there'll be a quote-unquote call to action, which is like, hey, it's really important to get a hold of your legislators as soon as possible and voice your concerns about this and that. And that's kind of where we are with the AEA bill right now. Can they get it compromised, and can we break this log jam on that? I would also tell you I'm a member of the School Administrators of Iowa. We have an educational lobbyist as well. The school board is part of the Iowa Association of School Boards. They have their own lobbyist. So I'm getting information from 3 or 4 lobbyists from different perspectives, and then pushing that information to either the board or to my administrators or to the community or teachers.
Do these lobbyists that you pointed out, do they kind of work together? Or?
They do. And a lot of these, when you see a call to action, it's kind of a bing, bing, bing on your email, like, okay, they've sat down and they've got their talking points, and if you look at them, it's like pretty similar. Now, not always. I mean, sometimes the school board lobbyists might look at it differently than probably the Teachers Association. So, there's differences, but a lot of times they are aligned.
Again, let's take a break for the weather. More with Gary DeLacy on FYI. Our update brought to you by ServiceMaster.
We're tracking a little bit of a warmer day for your Thursday. We'll have mostly cloudy skies this morning, becoming partly cloudy by the afternoon. Temperatures making their way into the mid-40s. For tonight, mostly cloudy. We'll drop to the mid-30s. And still a quick-hitting rain-snow mix for Friday morning. A light dusting north of the Quad Cities. We'll see highs in the low 40s. With your Storm Track 8 forecast, I'm meteorologist Andrew Sutsky.
Right now it's 32 degrees, overcast. Our update brought to you by ServiceMaster.
When disaster strikes, ServiceMaster at 215 4th Avenue South in Clinton is here to help. Here's owner Michael Armstrong.
We do a tremendous amount of disaster restorations. We deal with almost every single day.
Do you have regular business hours?
Yes, Monday through Friday, 8 to 4:30. The vast majority of our work is disaster, so 24-hour service. Whenever you need us, we'll be there to help you.
For water, fire, and smoke damage, mold remediation, and other specialty cleaning, call ServiceMaster of Clinton at 563-242-0724.
FYI, and we continue to the bottom of the hour now with Gary DeLacy. Let's talk a little bit about teacher pay and SSA.
Well, and those are unfortunately have been tied into the AEA bill, but SSA was supposed to be set 30 days after the governor's speech, which would have been February 9th. It's still not set. And so now, I mean, we're trying to set our budgets. It's budget season. And then another piece I'm hearing from legislators, well, we don't know what to give in supplemental state aid. That's what SSA is. So it's basically cost of living increase with the teacher pay. So there's different bills about moving the teacher minimum pay in Iowa is $33,500. It has not changed for 14 years. And quite frankly, in this day and age, this is one of the reasons why you can't get young people to go in the profession. Well, the governor did come out and say, we're going to raise it to 50 in her speech. The House is saying 47.5 for this upcoming year and then 50,000 the year after. So it's a little bit stepped. The Senate is just saying move it to 46,251, however they got that number. I'll be honest, that number doesn't help Clinton. I mean, that's kind of where a starting teacher is right now. We've had to react to market forces and things like that. But I do know a lot of small districts are probably still beginning teacher pay in the 30s. So it would make a difference there. Those two things need to move soon. And that's what it comes down to. So if people are out there listening and if they're interested, there is a coffee this Saturday. I'll be advocating that they got to make some decisions here because we need to set our budgets.
No doubt about that. Can we go on to the school safety then?
Absolutely. A couple school safety bills, but one I'm really concerned about is one that basically what they're saying is they're going to allow teachers to carry a gun. And I just have concerns about it. And to me, it's more about cost savings on their part. And here are some of my concerns. First of all, if you look at an officer has been taught to use weapons of less deadly force. So, for example, when you see an officer, they got a club, they got a taser, they've got all these different things. That's not what we're talking about teachers. Teachers are just going to have a gun. And you're going to get into these situations of gray where is the teacher, and is it really fair for that teacher to make that decision? Like, am I going to have to pull the trigger? Because you're talking about you're making a decision to eliminate a human life from this world, and is that what another responsibility? Even if the teacher volunteers for that, if there's a sliver of gray, that teacher's career is over, in my opinion, because the headline will be "Teacher Kills Student," and I just feel like it's a very unfair position to do that. I think you should have a fully trained police officer or school resource officer and have these other tools such as clubs and tasers and things like that, that when the situation calls for it, that you use something of less deadly force to do that. And to me, it's like, well, it's very expensive to put an SRO in every school building in the state of Iowa, so we're going to come up with this plan. And I just feel like it just is going to put teachers in a terrible position.
You know, you've heard about this in the national news. Are there other states that have done this or are considering this?
Well, actually, there's one or two districts in the western Iowa that have pursued this. And what they've ran into, and this is another thing that the legislators are wrestling, is these school districts now can't get liability insurance. So that tells you right there that these insurance companies feel like this is too big of a risk.
Yeah.
And we're not going to insure you. And then you get into, you just worry about scenarios where what happens if kids would jump a teacher and get possession of the gun. And you just start thinking about, there's just a lot of things that could go wrong.
Yeah.
And
I just see you there leafing through all those pages.
yeah, and I mean that, and the one I'm talking about is House File 2586. And that, I am not supportive of that piece of it where we are doing that. And I'm a big proponent that I do think we need good guys in the school. Those should be school resource officers, fully trained police officers.
Again, visiting with Gary DeLacy. Now, you brought this up a little bit earlier in the show, the second funnel, the casualties, open enrollment deadline, and school start date.
Yeah, these were two bills I was really hopeful would pass, and there are ways they can resurrect it, but technically right now, I think there's one bill that still has a school start date. People aren't thinking about this right now, but when you look ahead this year, August 23rd, which is by code the first day of school in the state of Iowa, is a Friday. And you'll say, well, why is it just August 23rd? Well, in any given year, the state fair could go as late as August 22nd. But it has nothing to do with the state fair, but it does. So I do think some legislators are getting enough feedback, and I'll be honest, Chris Knoyer is one of those that is supportive about, hey, we need flexibility with this. It doesn't make sense to start school on a Friday, although I will tell you, we just approved a calendar with that because I'd rather have a day in August than a day in June. So even starting on a Friday in August, it's not ideal, but it's probably better than adding another day in June. What would be more ideal is obviously the state fair ends that Sunday before. Give us the option of starting that Monday or Tuesday. We could pick up another 3 to 4 days of school and have a pretty meaningful week that way. So I'm hopeful they would resurrect it, but I'm not optimistic.
Dealing with, the calendar, the school calendar has got to be difficult at times because you do try and figure in snow days and different things like that, but you never know. We might have a winter where there wasn't any snow or really wasn't really cold and you really didn't have to schedule those days.
And we utilize virtual days this year. We utilized 3 of those. So I'm not scheduling snow days per se into our calendar with the use of virtual days. But I'll tell you, next year, another issue with next year is Christmas is on a Wednesday. And when Christmas is on a Wednesday, you're pretty much locked in. We're going to give a 16-day break for Christmas, which is fine. But guess what? This year it was 12. So guess what? We got some days of school in January 2nd and 3rd or in there. We're not going to get that. I think our first day back next year is January 6th because of where Christmas falls. So guess what? Our calendar right now does push into the first week of June, given those factors. And of course, it varies because of how the calendar rotates. But 2 out of 7 years, you always run into this Christmas either on a Wednesday or Thursday. You're kind of locked into a 16-day winter break.
That wouldn't be too bad, I wouldn't think.
Now, except when you get to the end of May and you're like, oh, we got some more school in June.
Yeah. So again, Gary DeLacy in studio. Let's get to the renovation update because how is that coming along?
It's been going really well because of the weather this winter. We were a little bit behind because of the demolition and the asbestos removal took longer than expected on that 1919 building. But we have made up time this winter, just given how mild, particularly think about February. I mean, we just had many days in the 50s, 60s. You would have never projected that. We were pouring a lot of concrete in February where you would have never thought about pouring concrete. So We're pretty optimistic phase 2 is going to open at least for the CTE and the fine arts wing when school starts in August. And the theater won't be done at that point, but it should be done by Christmas. And that'll get phase 2 done. Also, by knowing if we're going to have the music and the CTE wings, we can start demoing this summer, like the current shops building in the back. We could start demoing, and then we may start demoing fronts of the building where phase 3 is basically the new front of the building. So we've had a good winter. Things are progressing. When I walk through, you're really starting to see those parts of phase 2 take shape. It's going to be pretty exciting. I'm planning on taking the board through there in May because we'll be at a point where you can really visualize how it's going to look. Heck, even when I went through a couple days ago, they're starting some interior walls and painting. And I mean, I know we're in March, so sometimes, but I mean, we're still open. This isn't like it's a heated indoor space, but it's warm enough that we're doing some painting in this facility.
Of course, part of the renovation, phase 1 has been completed. I would imagine you've had the opportunity to talk with some of the students and the teachers. What kind of reaction, feedback have you gotten from them so far?
Well, I'll be honest, it's simple things you wouldn't think about. The old building, we had a hard time regulating heating and cooling. We just couldn't get it done. So you have rooms that were extremely warm or extremely cold at the same time, just depending on part of the building. Just having that consistent climate control throughout the building, and really that is helpful. I'll be honest, the amount of natural light we can bring into that building. The other one was kind of a tomb, the way they reconstructed it after the fire. And there was a lot of rooms, there was no natural light at all. Here, the majority of our rooms have natural light, and the research shows that, not just students, but workers are more productive with natural light. So those pieces, and it's just modern, the technology, everything works. When you build a building in 1919, you were not forecasting where technology would be now. And so that building, that high school building, was really struggling to keep up. And now they have a new building where, it just comes down to it works. Everything works. So that's been a big piece of it, is just a lot of those pieces I think have really made it great. And now getting phase 2 online for next year, and then the following year, hopefully phase 3, and finally being done with construction, I think will be huge.
I know after phase 1 there was the open house, and that was very well attended. Plans for something like that after phase 2?
Absolutely. And obviously, I won't be the superintendent at that point, but I know West Golden is planning that there will be an open house, particularly once that theater's done and the whole phase 2 is done. There'll be an open house so people can see it. That theater will be state of the art.
That is great. We're going to have a chance to visit with you 3 more times before retirement, April, May, and June. You mentioned you're going to bring Wes in for one of the programs, either May or June. So you're starting to think about retirement. You say you're sprinting to the finish, so maybe not.
I'm sprinting to the finish, but I will admit I did send in my IPERS information yesterday. So I'm working on both things as it goes along.
All right, very good. People want to find out more information about what is happening in the Clinton school system. What's the best way to do that, Gary?
Well, I'll be honest. We have a marketing director that really updates our website really well. I do communicate a lot to KROS and the Clinton Herald on those things, and you can always just reach out to me personally, but through email, and answer your questions.
So we'll have you back here again on April 18th. Thank you so much. Just one quick thing again. Young American Workshop open to the public on Saturday.
Well, the public performance is open on Saturday.
Right.
Doors will open at 5:30. Show will run basically 6 to 8.
You want to see it? All right. Thanks so much, Gary.
Nothing beats March Madness. The pure sound of a swish, the rattle of a slam dunk, the fans on their feet for the big moments. and the action just keeps getting better until a national champion is crowned. Hear all the action with Westwood One.